Welcome to the MCQ session of Economics Notebook. Microeconomics Production Function. Question number 1. Expansion path shows the locus of least cost input combinations for producing various levels of output, assuming that money outlay remains the same, input prices remains the same, state of technology remains the same, both B and C. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ക്വസ്റ്റിന് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കണം എന്താണ് എക്സ്പാൻഷൻ പാത്ത്, അതുപോലെ അതിൻ്റെ അസംഷൻസ് എന്താണ് എന്നൊക്കെ. Expansion path is a locus of various points where each point represents the producer's equilibrium. This line is termed a scale line because producer needs to adjust its scale of production according to this line to achieve the desired output. On the other hand, this line is also termed as expansion path because the producer needs to expand output by following this path when the prices of factors remain constant. With the given factor prices and given production function, the optimal expansion path is determined by the points of tangency of successive isocost lines and successive isocons. If the production function is homogeneous, the expansion path will be a straight line through the origin. If the production function is non-homogeneous, the optimal expansion path will not be a straight line, even if the ratio of prices of factors remains constant. Question number 2. Other things remaining the same, when an entrepreneur's money outlay increases, his equilibrium point moves to a higher isocont, a lower isocont remains unchanged on the same isocont, moves to the left-hand side on the same isocont. He can now produce more quantity of both goods, their prices remaining unchanged when the money outlay increases. Question number 3. The curve tracing the optimum combination pattern of two inputs with the changes in money outlay is known as expansion path, input consumption curve, supply curve, none of the above. Question number 4. The expansion path of production theory is analogous in consumption theory to the price consumption curve or PCC, Engel curve, income consumption curve, price line. ഈ ഓപ്ഷൻസിൽ തന്നിരിക്കുന്ന ഓരോ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ്സും നമുക്കിവിടെ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാം. അതിനുശേഷം നിങ്ങൾ തന്നെ ആൻസർ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാം. Price consumption curve is a graph that shows how a consumer's consumption choices change when prices of one of the goods changes, holding income and price of the other commodity constant. The downward sloping PCC for a good means that demand for the good is elastic. Upward sloping PCC means that demand for the good is inelastic. Horizontal straight line PCC means that demand for the good is unitary elastic. Backward sloping PCC happens in the case of given goods. Engel curve. The curve showing the relationship between the levels of income and quantity purchased of particular commodities can be called as Engel curve. As the income of a family increases, the proportion of its income spent on necessities such as food falls, and that spent on luxuries consisting of industrial goods and services increases. Thus, change in the pattern of consumption expenditure with the rise in income of the families has been called Engel's law. The shape of the Engel curve differs according to the nature of the goods. If the goods are necessities, then the Engel curve will be upward sloping with increasing slope. That is, consumption of these goods increases relatively less as income rises. Income കൂടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാലും ഇൻകം കൂടുന്ന അതേ പ്രൊപ്പോർഷനിൽ നെസസിറ്റീസിൻ്റെ കൺസംഷൻ കൂടുന്നില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നെസസിറ്റീസിൻ്റെ കേസിൽ അപ്വേർഡ് സ്ലോപ്പിംഗ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള എങ്കിൾ കർവ് കിട്ടുക. For luxuries, upward sloping but is concave. Consumption of these goods increases relatively more as income rises. അതായത് ഇൻകം കൂടുന്നതിനനുസരിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ കൺസംഷൻ ഓഫ് ലക്ഷറീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കൂടി വരും. Inferior goods, backward bending. The income consumption curve or ICC or income expansion path is a set of optimal consumer combinations which are obtained by varying their income levels and keeping the prices of goods constant. If the goods are normal, then the ICC slopes upward, whereas if one of the goods is inferior, then the slope is negative. Price line. It shows all those combinations of two goods which the consumer can buy by spending his given money income on the two goods at their given prices. It is also known as budget line. The slope of the budget line is the ratio of the prices of good X and good Y. The slope of a budget line is always negative and it is downward sloping. The slope of the budget line can be written as Px divided by Py. Question number 5. Returns to scale will be said to be in operation when quantity of all inputs are changed, all inputs are changed in already established proportion, all inputs are not changed, one input is changed while quantity of all other inputs remains the same. Returns to scale explains the behavior of the rate of increase in output or production relative to the associated increase in the inputs or factors of production in the long run. In the long run, all the factors of production are variable and subject to change due to a given increase in size or scale. If output increases by that same proportional change as all inputs change, then there are constant returns to scale. If output increases by more than proportional change in input, there are increasing returns to scale. If output increases by less than proportional change in inputs, there are decreasing returns to scale. Question number 6. The concept of expansion path is relevant when the input is increased by a change in the state of technology, increasing the level of inputs X and Y, a change in the plant size, all of the above. Question number 7. The expansion path is the locus of points of producer's equilibrium resulting when the price of input X changes, price of input Y changes, money outlay of the entrepreneur is varied, entrepreneur shifts on a higher isochond. Question number 8. Expansion path depicts the least cost combination as the money outlay of the entrepreneur changes when relative prices of two inputs remain constant, price of one input remains constant and the other changes, prices of both inputs remain constant, none of the above. Question number 9. Implicit costs are the costs which are not incurred by the firm and may accrue to the community of resources owned by the firm, of resources supplied by the households, of government externalities. Question number 10. Which one of the following is an implicit cost of production? Wages of labor, charges of electricity, interest on owned money capital, payment of raw material. Implicit cost. These are also called imputed cost, implied cost, or notional cost. They represent the opportunity cost of using resources already owned by the firm. Often for small businesses, they are resources contributed by the owners. For example, working in the business while not getting a formal salary or using the ground floor of a home as a retail store. Explicit costs are out-of-pocket costs. These are payments that are actually made. Wages that a firm pays its employees or rent that a firm pays for its office are explicit costs. These two definitions of cost are important for distinguishing accounting profit and economic profit. Economic profit is equal to total revenue minus explicit cost plus implicit cost. Explicit cost plus implicit cost is also known as total economic opportunity cost. Accounting profit is equal to total revenue minus explicit cost. Now check your answers. Question number 1D, 2A, 3A, 4C, 5B, 6B, 7C, 8A, 9B, and 10C.